farmhouse. Okay, the like wall it up and shit. Okay. The tower was largely, and that's not the same John Fenwick that we're studying. Let me tell you how much of a nightmare it is that every generation, everyone just names their kids after each other because you have a John Fenwick, multiple John Fenwicks, in fact, each generation. So it really, really, and the only time it ever gets easy with this type of stuff is when you have the like the political or the like militant descriptions of people. Um, like in our case, Major John Fenwick. He's the only Major John Fenwick. But there, his generation, he had a couple cousins named John Fenwick actually. One, which I think has something to do with the South Carolina plantation, which is a whole different branch of the Fenwicks and um different history. And then there was like another cousin, John Fenwick, who was executed because he got executed for like treason and shit like that later on. Um, he was, I think, a little bit younger than the Major John Fenwick, but it makes it real confusing. So this John Fenwick is probably like a great 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 grandfather to Major John Fenwick, the guy we're interested in, or somewhere along those lines. A grandfather so many times back. But apparently he was given, yeah, so he was he was probably given the property in some sort of like gifted fashion or whatever, and then he was given the license to fortify it. The tower was largely demolished in about 1775 at the time, a hoard of medieval gold coins was discovered. That's something that you see repeated a lot. I don't like. It must have been a really big fucking deal because like it gets mentioned a lot in it. But at the same time, it also validates like certain time frames and shit. The sparse remains of the tower are now incorporated into a 17th century farmhouse and are protected by Grade 2 listed building status. On the 15th of February 2010, human remains were found buried next to the cottage in the hamlet of Fenwick Towers. The radiocarbon dating of the remains indicated they likely dated to the 13th or 14th centuries. Here we go. Burke's genealogical and heretic history of the extinct and dormant baroneties of England, Ireland, and Scotland, 1844. That book is a very, very helpful book. Oh, let's check out this now, real quick. Wallington, get a picture. How fucking cute is that? Whoa. Wallington is a country house, and gardens located about 12 miles west of Morph, Morph, Morpheth, Morph, Northumberland, England, near the village of Camboo. It has been owned by the National Trust since 1942 after it was donated complete with the estate and farms of Sir Charles Phillips Trevelyan. The first donation of its kind. It is a Grade 1 listed building. Some of the wealth of the Trevelyan family derived from the holding of slaves in Grenada. Interesting. Okay. Grenada is in the Eastern Caribbean Sea. Derived from the holding of slaves in Grenada. Whoa. Okay, so the guy who donated this house to a national trust was, oh, he was a baronet too, Sir Charles Phillips Trevelyan, Trevelyan, politician, served as the president of the Board of Education. Where'd he go? In 1924 and between 29 and 31. I'm interested in that now. What was the name? What is this guy? Hold on. Laura Trevelyan? What? The main topic of the lecture was her family's links to slavery. They are descendants of Sir Charles Trevelyan, the 19th century British civil servant and colonial administrator who owned a slave plantation in the Caribbean island of Grenada. In 2023, the family publicly apologized for its ownership of more than 1,000 enslaved Africans in Grenada and promised to pay reparations. Her experience as a journalist has helped her work as a slave trade reparations advocate. Ms. Trevelyan made a documentary for the BBC called Confronting the Past in 2022. Aristocratic British families to make history by traveling to the Caribbean and publicly apologizing for its ownership of more than 1,000 enslaved Africans. The Trevelyan family, which has more notable ancestors, is also paying reparations to the people of Grenada, where it owned 6 sugar plantations. Last weekend, the family met online and agreed to sign a letter of apology for the enslavement of captive Africans. 42 members of the family have so far signed, and more signatures are expected. In 1835, the Trevelyan family received £26,898, a huge sum at the time, in compensation from the British government for the abolition of slavery a year earlier. The enslaved men, women, and children received nothing and were forced to work a further 8 years unpaid as apprentices. A £100,000 fund donated by the New York-based BBC correspondent Laura Trevelyan will be formally launched in Grenada on 27th February by Sir Ely Beckles. Well, that's really nice that they're trying to right their wrongs. Sir Charles Trevelyan. Let's look up this guy, Sir Charles. As a young man, he worked with the colonial government in Calcutta, India. Okay. Role in the Irish famine. On the 21st January 1840, entered on the duties of Assistant Secretary of Her Majesty. Okay. Legacy and honors. Chamberlain was appointed 3 days later on March 1874. He was created the first Chamberlain Baronet of Wallington. Oh, he was already there when his cousin Walter Calverley died at Wallington. Okay. Okay, yeah, he definitely, yeah, all right, 1800s. We're talking like 200 years after the life of John Fenwick and Sir William Fenwick. Interesting. I wonder when the house left. We need to ask that. I'll have to remember that question when this house left. Because if it was in. Actually, I think I might have come across that at some point. Anyway, I've gone down a crazy rabbit hole. All to show you this house. He looks like a fucking creep, honestly. Children, Sir George II. What's this guy do? My bad. Yo, my neighbor upstairs is so loud, it really sounds like people are breaking into my house sometimes. It's crazy. Be tripping me out, man. I'm sitting here tripping. Political career. Uh, one of the grandsons to the guy, the slave owner guy. Oh well, he died. Oh, he died at age 90. Okay. Damn, he had a lot of money for that time. But the grandson, the third grandson, this guy George Macaulay Trevelyan, a historian. I wonder how much he addressed his slave owning grandfather. And then this guy, excuse me, he was the great grandson of Sir John Shirley. Oh man, okay. So they owned Wallington, which the family had owned since 1777. Welcome Hotel, Warwickshire. Oh man. They had 7 children, including his eldest son, Sir George Trevelyan, whom he disinherited. Why? Why'd he do that? I wonder if we can find out. Oh, there we go. Jesus. Why did disinherit his son George? He is a dog. Oh, this is a PDF. Oh shit. A very British family. Trevelyan's in their world. This is probably a really fire book, honestly. All her sources. This is probably a really dope book, but I'm not interested in that family. I need to move on. Alright, I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay. Where are we at? Page 7. So anyway, the Tower of Fenwick. That's where I originally started. Tower of Fenwick is located in a house near Matfin, Northumberland, England. This house is a historic farmhouse that incorporates the remains of the 12th century Fenwick Tower, which is where the name originates. Historical significance: the Fenwick family owned the tower and surrounding land for centuries. Current structure: the existing house is a mix of old and new, with the original tower incorporated into the building. Location: you can't find it near the village. You can find it near the village of Matfin in Northumberland. It would be cool to see. See the Fenwick Hall plantation stories. That's the South Carolina Fenwick family story, which ultimately can be traced back to the same family and folks that we're tracing our John Fenwick back to. They were cousins, I think, or distant cousins, some along those lines. I really like it shows this picture here, but that don't look like a very old farmhouse, honestly. See, no, that's Fenwick Island, which is in Delaware, which is you would think had something to do with John Fenwick, but actually has nothing to do with Fenwick at all. Here's this house. What is this? Is this it? Oh yeah, so that's it. Where'd it go? We got a picture right there. Or is this it? Newcastle upon Tyne? Maybe? Fenwick Tower? Northumberland? So this must be the old farmhouse that has the tower incorporated inside of it. I mean, this kind of looks like it. Could be it. Fenwick History Tour? Okay. Oh shit, this guy wrote a book, okay. Philip Fenwick Elliott at Fenwick, Northumberland. Okay. In the meantime, I have just got back from a quick trip to Northumberland with my brother Philip, a sort of site view for my book 500 Fenwicks, which is a history of the Fenwick family. Probably of no real interest to anyone else, at any rate, anyone who is not a Fenwick. You'd be wrong, buddy, but respect, because that's how I feel about this shit. How I feel about this stream right here, actually. Like, there's no way anyone is interested in this at all. It is notable that the Fenwicks retained their position as an upper middle class family in a fairly small area in Northumberland since at least the mid 1200s and probably earlier, not really moving far geographically or socially, so there were plenty of knights, a trio of somewhat unattractive baronets, and numerous army officers, lawyers, clergy, and colonialists, and of course, umpteen high sheriffs and landowners. There's also a surprising number of really rather nice, substantial houses built by the Fenwicks still around, and the current owners of each of them were extraordinarily helpful in allowing me to take some photographs. I will post some when I tidy them up and get necessary permissions. Fenwick itself, where the family built their first castle, probably not much more than a peel tower at first, but later expanded, is just a small ruin these days. Most of the stone have been reused for more modern buildings, but other fortifications, like my great grandfather Sir Roger Fenwick's peel tower at Bitchfield, remain remarkably intact. Let's go to Tower. Bitchfield Towers. Because that might be the Roger Fenwick that. Did it say Roger or Ralph? That's. Was the brother of. Oh, that is okay. Hmm. Probably these here. Probably this one. But anyway, that might be the brother of Major John Fenwick. Why did I go? Oh, right here. Yeah. Interesting. 500 Fenwicks. I wonder if that book ever came out. The Tower of Fenwick at Whittington in Northumberland. Because okay. Page 8. Let's see. Notes I have for page 6. Fenwicks can be dated back to 1100s under King Henry I. Extinct and dormant Baronet T. Burks. Clan was known as the Fierce Fenwicks and the Fearless Fenwicks. Battle cry Fenwick, a Fenwick, a Fenwick. House of Percy was, yeah, we looked at that. Fenwick Tower may have been the first seat of the family in the 12th century. We're going on to page 8 now. Okay. Alright, we're going to learn a little more about Fenwick Tower here, I think. In the 9th year of Edward III, 1334, Inquisition was held at Newcastle Castle, and Johannes Fenwick was twice appointed sheriff. Fenwick Tower was enlarged and protected better from the Scots. In the 12th century, Sir Robert Fenwick endowed the Abbey of Newminster, whatever that means. And then we're switching over to my other journal. That was my regular scribble journal, and then I didn't want to keep. I used that for everything else, and I wanted the history stuff to be, specific and cataloged a certain way. So I moved on to a different journal. Okay. Limits similar to those built by the Saxon invaders during the 5th and 6th centuries. This was probably the first seat of the family after their coming over, and whence it may be traced through many of the shires in England. They're talking about Fenwick Tower. In the 9th year of the reign of Edward III, 1334, an inquisition was had of Newcastle Castle, and Johannes Fenwick was twice appointed sheriff. During that time, it was much enlarged and strengthened, being an important point of protection and defense against the Scots, like I mentioned earlier. In these warlike times, this place had no commercial importance, but has grown to be one of the largest ports in England. The enmities of former generations have passed away, and what was once a necessary appendage to every town is now visited by the curious to see the means of defense in a barbarous age. In the 12th century, Sir Robert Fenwick of Northumberland endowed the Abbey of Newminster in the same shire with two parts of his villa of Erdington in Cumberland, thus showing his liberty towards and his adherence to the Catholic Church. These endowments of lands, which at that time in many cases had but little value in themselves, as time progressed and the resources of that nation were developed, yielded large revenues to the church and its adherents. By this means were the old edifices reared, combining beauty, grandeur, and strength in a wonderful degree, showing that however rude and barbarous our ancestors may have been, they were skilled in every department of ornamental architecture. Well may the English nation be proud of the many ruins of towers, castles, abbeys, and churches now standing within its borders, which, even in their delapsed condition, are not excelled by modern art. Respect, though. But though destroyed by devastation's hand, by fury gilded or outrageous zeal, your ruins now majestically grand bid solemn contemplation there to dwell. Contemplation. Bid solemn contemplation there to dwell. In the ninth year of King Henry the Seventh, 1517, Roger Fenwick was appointed constable of the same castle, showing that through several centuries the family had not only remained in this place but was in favor with and had the confidence of the ruling monarchs. This is still Fenwick Tower. Although no continuous history of the family can be had, nor any complete genealogy secured, yet enough is gathered to show that talent, loyalty, and courage were not wanting and appreciated always by their sovereign. This is what I mentioned earlier, where there's just these books that have like different records of different times, and it gets all like compiled together, and we're kind of able to make out what this story is. That's what I was trying to say earlier with this line right here. Although no continuous history of the family can be had, nor any complete